Here's what's coming today on the Woodworking Network podcast.
Nobody on earth drives the long way to work. Why? Because you have a lean thinking brain, and your lean thinking brain says the long way is not good.
Welcome to this episode of the Woodworking Network podcast. Join us as we explore the business of woodworking, big and small, and what it takes to succeed. I'm Will Sampson. Today's episode is sponsored by WoodPro Expo Lancaster. Today our guest is Brad Cairns from Quantum Lean and Best Damn Doors in an episode recorded live at IWF. But first I want to talk about lean versus automation. Automation was everywhere at the recent International Woodworking Fair in Atlanta. There was a robot and or CNC machine in every aisle. I led a day-long CNC symposium the day before the show opened, and there was lots of discussion in that event about automated material handling. Lots of people selling automated equipment portray the technology as a solution to not being able to hire enough skilled workers. But I kept wondering where lean manufacturing fits into this equation. I know serious lean proponents who operate both automated and non-automated operations. Some of both camps were at the show. With lean so focused on continuous improvement and driving efficiency, why isn't everyone who advocates lean buying the latest technology? The answers to these questions are complicated. But I think fundamentally there are some misperceptions about how technology works and the role of automation and how it should play out in a business. Years ago, when computers first started making an appearance in woodworking shops, there was resistance by some who saw computerization as some kind of dilution of craftsmanship. If I use a keyboard and a mouse to design a project instead of pencil and paper, is that somehow cheating? And if I use a computerized machine to actually make all or part of the project, that's a bridge too far for some people. I just don't see it that way. I see both lean and automation as tools that complement each other. In fact, if you try to automate without having a solid lean continuous improvement program in place, you might have more difficult time in dealing with the changes automation naturally brings, like creating new bottlenecks that you did not anticipate. No matter what or how you automate, you need good processes in place to take full advantage of your automation. Lean helps create those processes by identifying waste and building systems to reduce or eliminate that waste. Some of the non-automated lean proponents I know haven't adopted automation because they're still finding so many ways to improve their shops without expensive technology that they just don't yet see the need. But automated lean operations see robotics and CNC as natural parts of a dynamic lean enterprise. What is too often overlooked is that no one thing is a silver bullet that will heal all that ails your operation. Getting that first-time CNC or robot is not different than putting in your first lean process. In both cases, you will solve one or two bottlenecks, but move those bottlenecks somewhere else in your operation. You can't just buy machines to solve problems. And to get the most out of the machines, you have to put the right processes in place. In my view, lean manufacturing principles provide the roadmap to choose what to automate first and when. Those same principles continue to point the way after you start on a road to automation without sacrificing any quality. I want to get to our interview with Brad Cairns, but first let's pause for a word from our sponsor. You don't have to wait a year for the next big industrial woodworking show if you are near the Mid-Atlantic area. WoodPro Expo Lancaster offers a lot of what the big shows have, including machinery in action, a show floor with a wide selection of exhibitors offering show specials, and a conference full of educational sessions to boost your business. All of that in a convenient setting in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Network with peers, learn about the ways to improve your business, and see your next machine in action at WoodPro Expo Lancaster, October 13th through 14th at Spooky Nook Sports Center. Learn more at woodproexpolancaster.com. See you there. Now let's get to our interview with Brad Cairns.
Hello, this is Will Sampson from FDMC Magazine and the Woodworking Network. We are live today at IWF. Boy, is it great to be back in person with people at IWF. And I have as my guest today, Brad Cairns, our lean expert of Quantum Lean in Canada. Brad, welcome.
Thank you, Will, for having me. It's always nice to be here with you.
You had a symposium yesterday with lean folks and all. How did that go? What happened?
Well, I think you'd have to ask them, but we think a good sign was at 4 o'clock when we said everybody can leave. Not one person moved.
Oh wow, that's
so,
exciting.
Yeah, our Q&A went for another half an hour, so it was pretty cool. I think we had a great day.
That's great. Well, here we are at a big trade show that is focused on all sorts of stuff to buy and machines and efficiency stuff. As a lean proponent, lean manufacturing proponent, how do you feel about processes versus equipment?
Oh, this is a great question, because we were looking at the attendance list yesterday and we thought 25,000 people here, 40 at the Lean Symposium. And we're like, wow, there might be some people missing the boat on that one. I mean, we're all always, and especially if you're a woodworker, like, we love machines. We love to buy machines.
Oh, it's like sports cars.
I mean, this is where it's at. But yeah, there's a definite connection between technology and improving processes, and there can be a break in that if you buy a machine without changing the rules around how you're running it or how you're running your production.
A good, efficient machine might hide the flaws in your process.
Or cause them. I mean, we all know the 8 deadly wastes, right? And the worst one is overproduction. So if you take a sawing operation and speed it up 300%, but your next in-line process is not going to keep up, well, you tell me the boss is going to turn off that $250,000 saw. He's not. And you're just going to overproduce and overproduce and overproduce and cause yourself way, way more problems than you had before.
Right. And if all of you're focused on is that one unit and that one measure, we manage what we measure, and then you're stuck because you can't continue and can't produce efficiently.
Yep. And then that's not to say all these machines aren't amazing. There is, and there's definitely a time and a place for when you need them. But of course, as a lean guy, I want to say, let's squeeze that lemon. Let's get maximum throughput. You will get to a point where you need to go buy that saw, where you need to go get that next machine. But are you there? Are you looking to use money to solve a problem, or have you got to that maximum point without it, and now you need it?
Well, and integrating the new machine, even if you've studied everything and you decide this is the time to pull the trigger and buy that new machine, if you don't have it integrated into your process and flow, as you said, it can disrupt the whole flow, and all the progress that you made somewhere else in the plant is going to be lost.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
Well, and it's all a question of flow and coordination, and the whole idea with lean is continuous improvement, and often that does involve changing a machine or getting a new machine. I mean, I know in your operation that you've added a robot within the last couple of years, and it's an amazing addition to your operation. But you have to integrate that with the rest of your people. How does that work in your situation?
Well, in that case, we actually we designed and built that robot ourselves, and so that machine is designed to work with the person. So it's not a standalone, like, just feed it kind of machine. And so we balance the work between the person and the robot with there's a certain amount of handwork that has to be done always. You know, I don't think you're going to find a machine on the planet that's doing 100%, especially sanding. And we just do the math, right? We take that time. How long is a hand sanding process? Okay, that's how long we have for the robot to be done his process. And so that was balanced with one person. So we're effectively taking the efforts of one person sanding and getting two out of it. Except for one of them shows up for work every day. Never calls in sick.
Never calls in sick.
Never
Never has
asks for
a
a raise.
hangover. Doesn't ask for a raise.
Never late for podcasts.
You do have to. You do have to. Maintain it and
Yes.
apply some things to it. But yeah, no, robots are very attractive in that regard. But they're also, I get a lot of pushback from folks that somehow automation is cheating, and that it's not woodworking. But it's, to me, the technology is freeing you up and giving you more opportunity to do custom things. Like you said, there's always going to be something that's a hand process. So let the robot do the things that it can do, and now you have more people, more time, more energy to do something special.
I mean, if you look at what automation has done for the world at large, are we more productive as a whole, as a society because of automation, or is there less jobs now? There's more jobs than there's ever been. There's more automation than there's ever been. The more automation that we use, the more jobs we're going to create. And if you look at, I'm always picking on the sanding one because this is the robot we have, but no one's coming out of college going, I want to run a palm sander, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
This is a encroaching on another subject, but this is a real thing that needs to be addressed in terms of, where should automation be applied? And last year, the calls that we got for robots were all, quality, consistency, productivity. This year, every phone call is, I just need someone to be there. So, automation is reliable, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really tough. And I hear it all the time about folks that they can't find skilled workers and all that. But you can't count on automation to be a one-for-one replacement for all those workers. You need to work on some other things. But I think that's another thing where lean comes into play, because I think that people need to feel valuable in their work. And lean does that because it makes them a part of the continuous improvement and a part of the mission of making a more productive facility, and empowers them to make changes, to do things to get that improvement.
Yeah, I'll quote Taiichi Ono, and he said, you need to be making everything easier, better, faster, cheaper, and in that order. So if you're applying automation into a lean environment, for me, all you're doing is taking the human element and saying, hey, I'm going to make your job a little easier, and now you can actually be the creative genius that you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to be not thinking about anything and just running, equipment all day. Like, let's take that automation and if we can free up some RAM memory in our head and focus on now, hey, I don't have to think about sanding all day, but I'm going to think about how to make the whole process better, or looking at the whole value stream and saying, I have an idea for this. Well, that idea might not have come about if they were busy,
Think about a whole new product.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, it's a liberating force, and I also think that it's interesting. Years ago, I did a story on a woman who bought a defunct wood turning plant in Maine, and she was enamored of lean, although she didn't really come from a production environment, but she felt there was something that she could revive here and make money, and she had some management skills and that sort of thing, and she tried to hire back a lot of the workers that had worked in the defunct plant that were still in the area. And she found a lot of them asking her, "You're not going to do this lean stuff, are you?" And and they were all scared of it, and it bothered her, and it was from their past experiences. And she was pretty cool. She came up with a solution. This was in Maine, New England, and she said, "Oh no, we're not doing lean. We're going to do Yankee. We're just going to try and be more efficient and more productive." And she just basically put a new face on it and gave them the authority to make improvements. It was not ultimately totally successful for her, not because of lean, more because of her lack of woodworking management skills,
Right.
and the economy. But I always thought that was funny that the employees were so afraid of lean, whereas in a true lean plant, lean is liberating and gives them power and allows them to improve their own lot in life.
That's a very interesting story, because we're literally on the brink of changing all of our our marketing, our branding, to take out the word lean, because we think it's scaring people away. And there's 25,000 people, and everyone's thinking of lean as an extra thing in my day. It's like, oh, that lean, I don't have time for lean. And it's so hard to convey that message that lean is just a different mindset. That's it. You just switch, and you still go about your day. You're still doing all the same work. And so, she was ahead of the curve on that one, because it applies to everyone. Like, anyone who's building anything should really be, looking to improve. They probably
shouldn't
are.
you be looking for the most efficient way to do anything?
Yeah. It just happens to be a toolbox that was created. We're standing on the shoulders of giants here. We don't have to dream it up. Shingo did that for us. Henry Ford did that for us. Deming did that for us. They all wrote books, so it's all there. And it's just I'm trying to find a way that I really me, I'm passionate about it, and I want to get it out to everybody. But it's kind of, when you give it that extra name, it just gets scary.
Well, and I think a lot of the Japanese buzz phrases that are in there. We talk about Kanban and Gemba and Pokeokes and things like that just fly over the head of a lot of people. They don't. What do I have to learn? Do I have to learn Japanese to understand this?
Right.
It's really sad, because you and I just intuitively understand the beauty and power of lean, but not everybody out there does. And so, how do we get them to take a look at this and not decide that it's more work and more trouble, that it's creating less work and creating more opportunity and more value?
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge. And when they're not joking when we say lean is for 2% of the world, but it applies to 100% of the world, and especially, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 50% of all woodworking manufacturers are just paying the bills. Another 25% are maybe on the plus side, 5 points. Another 10% of that are maybe on the plus side by 10, and then the top 5% have successful businesses. And so we're looking at the lion's share of our industry desperately needs a solution that's free, that's easy. I say easy, nothing's easy, but you know what I mean. It's available.
Right.
You can't Google lean transformation and find a bad story or someone like, oh, lean doesn't work. It does. And so we have the lion's share of an industry, and even in every industry, but that needs it. And how do we get that? Hey, the next thing you buy, maybe nothing's cheap anymore in woodwork. Can you buy anything for $100,000 now? So like, you're going to go out and spend that $100,000, and I promise you, the return on improving your culture will be 10 times that. And then next year, go buy the saw from a position of power, not, Jesus, I hope this saw saves my day.
I think that folks desperate to hire people are looking in desperation at technology. And the irony of technology versus lean, and it isn't a versus, they can be partners, but people look at it that way. And they look at technology that they don't really understand, and they're more willing to look at that than they are at a philosophy of doing business
That's been around
yeah. for decades. I mean, when I toured a factory with Shingo back in 1984, that's a long time ago. And he was an old man then. His granddaughter was his translator. And, it's just, it baffles the mind, but I think it's because people see it as, it's like magic or something, and it's not going to work. And, this technology, though, I don't understand any of it, but it'll work.
Yeah, the kids will figure it out on the shop floor. If I give them that thing, they'll figure it out. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if there's enough time right now that we can get that message. Like, it is honestly not hard. It's all intuitive to human behavior. Nobody on earth drives the long way to work. Why? Because you have a lean thinking brain, and your lean thinking brain says the long way is not good. Let's take the shortest way between two
Unless
points.
the long way avoids traffic.
Well,
what's that Google app that tells you to, way by or whatever it is?
Yeah.
It tells you how to take the side roads.
So yeah, I mean, I just think there's just so much power in just empowering people to make improvements, and it gives them more value, more purpose at work. It just makes so much sense. Everybody do it. That's my message. Just do it. Don't think about it. Just start. It'll be painful in the beginning. You'll make some mistakes. Who cares? The flip side is so much better. We had 3 guest speakers yesterday at our Lean Symposium that all of their stories, Dustin from Hunter Trim, his company went from 10 employees at $700,000 a year to, I think he said this year, 6 million. Guess how many people on the shop floor?
Don't know.
10. Same amount of people. You show me one machine that you can buy that's going to take you from 700,000 to 6 million, I buy it today. But that's what Lean did for his company.
Yeah, and this is a shop. He's in Houston or
Fort Worth, Texas.
Fort Worth, Texas. Yeah. I've met Dustin, and we've done a podcast together. And amazing guy, and he's no different than anybody else out there. Very intelligent guy, but he sees what Lean can do. Yeah. And it's, it is very basic. It's just making improvements, and you tack one improvement onto the other, and finally you'll get to some point where those improvements will be causing trouble for you somewhere else in your operation, and so you got to fix things. But that's the way everything works. When you buy a new machine, it solves one bottleneck and will create another somewhere else, and that's the way business works. I think what we're really getting into, I have constantly said that people in this industry, they got into it because they like to make stuff, but they didn't know how to make money.
Woodworkers make everything but money. I'm getting hats made.
Have you heard the joke about the woodworker who won the lottery, and they asked him what he was going to do, and he said, I'll keep working until the money runs out. So yeah, it's like that.
Will's here all day, folks. Will's here all day.
So it's frustrating. I mean, I just had more than 100 people in a talk about pricing, and lots of stuff that I was talking about was really basic, but these folks have not had formal business training, and that reflects the large portion of our industry. And, a lot of the stuff that you teach people to make their businesses more efficient are really basic kinds of things that are not rocket science, and they don't believe that they can transform their business without rocket science.
Right.
And, if you've got the power to use these lean tools in rocket science, and get that high-tech thing, wow, look at where you're going. You're going to the moon.
So, totally. I mean, I think one of my favorite sayings, I probably have to quote Paul Akers. He said, "Smart people can't believe it's this simple." And we're always looking for that super high-tech solution or that complicated algorithm that's going to help us do whatever it is we're doing. And when you say, hey, just like turn your people loose, let's make some improvements. Let's take away the stupid work, which we call it, and say, let's stop looking for pencils. I mean, start there, right? Stop running out of paper clips. I mean, right? I mean, nobody sees these little bits of time just chipping away. And when you start to implement some lean stuff, you get some Kanban going, you get standard work going. We look at it like everybody should have a retirement plan. And what do? We invest a little bit of money every month for our whole life so one day we can retire. And when you look at lean, all you're doing is taking that 5 seconds that I should have been, like I was messing with paper clips, but now my Kanban deals with that. I take that 5 seconds and I'm putting it in the bank. And I'm putting it in the bank, and I'm putting it in the bank. And so the compounding effect of all of those little bits of time is sometimes staggering. Like, you don't need that. I mean, it's great, and usually you have one or two of the big breakthroughs, right, where you're like, oh, our production went up 20%. That's usually in the beginning, but after that, you're just chiseling
incremental
away.
improvements.
Yeah, and you do that for long enough, and before you know it, you're so far ahead of your competitors because they're not doing it.
Right. Well, and they're not seeing that thing. They're not looking for that thing. Oh, and just to clarify for the folks that got thrown away by the buzzword Kanban that we both use, okay, that's a Japanese word that means sign, and it is basically an automatic ordering system. It's as simple as having a 3x5 card in a stack of the things that you need to replacement order, and it tells you everything that you need to know about where that part comes from or where that product comes from and how to order it, and it comes up automatically when you need to replace it.
Not automatically, not in computers. This is all happening with the
physical
card.
Yeah, it's a physical card, but it's like if you have a bin that has those pencils or whatever it is, and when you get enough pencils out of the bin, the card is there.
You got it.
It's really simple. It's nothing difficult.
At our symposium yesterday, we actually, for the first time, we did a Kanban demo. Usually we talk about it and teach the theory, and we feel like people don't appreciate the power of that because it is so low technology. It doesn't make sense. Like, I don't need a computer to track my inventory. And we did a full demo of how a shop runs out of parts, and I think people walked away from that going, wow, that little laminated card, we're just building Lego airplanes, but the first time we ran out of parts, we didn't know how many we built until the end, which of course we set up to be short. And then through 3 iterations, using those Kanban cards, problem solved, didn't run out of parts, made our customers happy. And, when you look at that, the complexity of that system, we're sitting here talking about lean and automation, the complexity of that system is so far on the other side of the spectrum of simple, and look at the problems that you solve. Stop running out of stuff. Stop running out of screws and glue. Like, watch what happens to your product.
I've been trying to figure out how to put a Kanban system in my refrigerator to tell me when to get milk. All the time I waste, asking my wife or my son, okay, I'm at the store, do we need milk?
I don't know if you said that to pick on me because I showed slides of my refrigerator fully Kanban.
Oh,
no, you didn't know
great.
that.
No, I didn't. That's great.
Yeah, I show my entire kitchen is running on a Kanban system.
Well,
so,
there's supposedly automated computer versions that your refrigerator knows everything that's in the refrigerator and tells you how to order it, and maybe tells Siri to place the order with Amazon, for all I know. I'm not much into that kind of range, but I just want to solve the problem, and that's what we're talking about, is solving these simple problems so that you can move on to bigger problems.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we always, if I'm giving people listening just some tips, like they're wondering, okay, what do I do? Where do I start? We start saying, like, just start thinking about your batch size and cut it in half. With the machines that you have, a typical result with the machines that you have, with maybe some guidance or some proper training, will give you about a 50% increase in throughput before you need to do anything. If there's no lean thinking happening in the organization
right.
already,
Just
that's generally
decreasing the batch size.
Yeah, decrease your batch size, increase your flow. Everybody thinks they need more space, and we say, well, actually, you don't, because if we can just increase the flow, connect some processes, then you don't need more space. It would be, it's like a garden hose. You don't need a longer garden hose to get more water. You need the water flowing faster through the hose.
Yeah, well, it's I think there again, we have been conditioned by our normal perceptions of mass production that we need huge batch sizes, that we want to make a whole bunch of things, and that's how we get efficient, is by being able to make a whole bunch of things. But we don't understand how those things are part of a bigger process, and maybe you can't get the ultimate goal, which is a completed product, with just making more of one part. You need all the parts in the same place at the right time so that you can do it. The example I always give is if you have 100 people that you need to move from the top of a building to the bottom of a building, and you have one elevator that takes 10 people, are they going to get down from the top of the building faster in the elevator, or if they take the stairs one by one? And always they'll get down faster with the stairs. And this is why the fire department tells you, if there's a fire, take the stairs. You can't wait for the elevator. And 10 at a time, okay, that seems more efficient, but it's not.
Right. And hopefully there's some machinery people going to listen to our podcast, because I want to give them a hot tip and maybe even a prediction. But if some of the restrictions that we have are unrecognized limitations to flow, single piece flow, is that machines just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's almost feeding that frenzy of like, oh, let's make more. And I would absolutely love some machines to be smaller and smaller and smaller. So an example, I talk to my friend Andrew at VentureCop all the time, and I say, Andrew, build me a spray machine that's 24 inches wide. I don't want this monster in my shop, but I want the 24 inches wide. And he says, well, what are you going to do with the bigger doors? Well, we're going to do them the same way we're doing them today. One out of every 15 doors I'm going to have to paint by hand, and that's okay. But the lion's share is going to go through an automated process. And
right.
So when we're thinking about automation, we're often thinking, well, I want to do everything. I need this thing that's going to do everything. And we're always telling people, automate up to 80%. There's the biggest bang for your buck if you follow the Pareto principle. After 80%, it gets expensive, and it consumes a lot of space. Usually gets really big
because it's specialized.
That's right. So if I could have a tiny spray machine with a tiny sander and then the 20% that will not fit on that equipment, we'll just do it the way we're doing it today. We're getting by.
And you get a massive improvement in your throughput, and so great.
More
wonderful.
People have less space than have more space.
I think it's the all or nothing attitude,
yeah.
And that's, whereas what we're talking about is incremental improvements no matter the size, and that's a great example.
But this is also customer driven, right? Because that customers are saying, I want to get it all done, not knowing that you're gonna save time, a lot of time and a lot of money, only going 80% and still doing 20% the hard way versus trying to get it all done. So.
Well, plus too, if you find a way to get that 80% automated, then there's going to be more focus on the 20% of than there is now, and you may find another solution that's specific to that 20%.
Bingo.
That maybe takes care of 80% of the 20%.
That's right.
You nailed
it. You nailed it.
So there's all sorts of opportunity. Well, this has been great, and I want to touch base with you again after the show and find some of your reactions to what you're seeing on the floor, and get a lean or whatever word you use to substitute for that once you figure it out.
We haven't decided.
Yeah, get some kind of a spin on all of this, but it's great that we're all back here face to face, and
Yes, amen.
I'm looking forward to being in Canada in October, and hope to see what's going on up in your part of the world and points
Anytime.
north, and so I think it's great. Well, thanks for being on the podcast,
Hey, no
Brad.
problem. It's always, I couldn't agree more. This being in person and getting to see all of our friends from the Woodworking Network, like real, I reach out and touch you now. It's call HR about that later, but it is nice, and I appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you. As
That's
always,
great.
it's been amazing.
That's great. You can read more about Brad Cairns and his thoughts on lean manufacturing in the pages of FDMC Magazine and on the Woodworking Network website at woodworkingnetwork.com. And we'll catch you next time. Thank you for listening to the Woodworking Network podcast.
Goodbye.
That's it for today. If you want to meet me in person, be sure to attend WoodPro Expo Lancaster, October 13th through 14th. If you're looking for more of our podcasts, you can find all of them at woodworkingnetwork.com/podcasts and in popular podcast channels. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks again to today's sponsor, WoodPro Expo Lancaster. Go to woodproexpolancaster.com. If you have a comment or topic you'd like us to explore, contact me at will.sampson@woodworkingnetwork.com. Thanks for listening.